This topic of discussion is doctrine of basic structure. In political science, we have so many doctrines. Just like that, one of the most important doctrine is doctrine of basic structure. We'll see what in brief what it is. In the previous class, we have discussed what is a constitution and what is constitutionalism. Now we see basic structure doctrine. This particular doctrine is related to the amendability of the constitution. So this is related to the amendability of the constitution, which means there was debate as to how to amend the constitution, whether to amend certain parts like fundamental rights or it is related to the power of the parliament. Ultimately, we have seen state has three organs. What is that? Legislature, executive and judiciary, and lawmaking body is legislature, means in the India's case it is parliament. So the parliament, the constitution itself gave the power of amending the constitution to the parliament itself as the legislative body, lawmaking body. That power was given, but the power to amend the constitution means to amend everything and anything in the constitution, or is it subjected to some conditions? We will see. So there was a debate emerged soon after the enforcement of the constitution in 1950. There were number of amendments. It all came after the first constitutional amendment, that is related to the within 1 year of the enforcement of the constitution. We have got the most important issue, the right to property. In this way, this basic structure doctrine came into existence. So what is this basic structure? So in order, we'll have an example. So for a building, in order to build a huge structure, we need to have basic pillars. In order to build a huge building, huge structure, we need to have certain pillars. Some pillars should be there. In order to erect this entire structure, we need to have some supporting pillars. So out of the so many pillars, some pillars are very important. They are very, very important. If we remove those pillars, if we displace those pillars, the entire structure will be collapsed. Just like the case of the building, our constitution, Indian constitution also are grounded on a certain basic fundamental principles. They are called basic structure or basic features. They are called basic structure or basic features. So basic structure or basic features. In the absence, if we remove these basic features from the constitution, and constitution would not have any value. There won't be any value, means, or significance. Actual significance or the spirit of the constitution will be lost. If we remove those pillars, those basic pillars, then the entire structure will be collapsed. Similarly, if we remove those basic features out of the constitution, so the entire constitution will be like a body without a soul. So therefore, we should not, under no circumstances, the basic features should be removed. If the basic features are removed, constitution rendered useless, and it's like a toothless tiger actually in reality. So therefore, we should not, amending of the constitution was kept in the hands of parliament. Constitution gave that power is called constituent power. That power was given by the constitution to the parliament. The parliament, under this constituent power, if it removes the basic features or the basic pillars of the constitution, then constitution will be rendered useless. So therefore, we will see how this concept, the basic structure concept, you understood, right? The basic structure means the constitution has certain basic features. We will see some of the basic features, like, then you will come to understand how they are important. If we remove those basic features, then what would be the actual significance of the constitution anedi manam okkar chuddam. So something like democracy. We are living freely in a democratic country. Prajaswamya rajyamlo manam nivasestunnam freega. So if we remove democracy, then it is like a police state. Earlier during the British times, we had a police state. So exploitative police state. So we, instead of that, we have a democratic state. So which is very much essential for the existence, free existence of the freedom of the citizens. Therefore, this is one of the basic features. Similarly, rule of law. Similarly, the concept of justice, equality. Similarly, separation of powers. We have seen separation of powers. Then we have fundamental rights, equality, justice, all these are part of fundamental rights. Similarly, we have federal structure. Federal structure means the relation, the vertical division of power between center and state. We have federal structure. We have so many basic features that some features are enshrined in the preamble itself. We have sovereign socialistic democratic republic. India is a sovereign socialist secular democratic republic. So all those features are basic features of the constitution. If we remove any of the basic features, some of the important means the essence of the constitution will be lost. The spirit of the constitution that the constitution makers or forefathers, they have imagined certain spirit, that will be lost. So we have to continue that spirit. So these are the basic features. We should not remove them from constitution so in order to protect its sanctity. And we will see various cases how we have come to this particular emergence of this doctrine. We will see the background. So in this connection, the basic structure doctrine has emerged in 1973 in the case of Keshavananda Bharati. Keshavananda Bharati's case of 1973, the Supreme Court has come up with this doctrine, basic structure or basic features doctrine. Supreme Court came up with this doctrine. They have formulated this doctrine of basic structure or basic features. In this particular case, the Supreme Court, while defining the basic structure, stated that the Supreme Court, the Parliament of India has the power to amend anything in the constitution, including fundamental rights, but without affecting or without disturbing the basic structure or basic features. Basic features ni disturb cheyakunda constitution lo ఏ part naina even fundamental rights ni kuda amend cheyochu ani first time ఈ కేసులో కేశవానంద భారతి కేసులో సుప్రీం కోర్ట్ హ్యాస్ కమ్ అప్ విత్ దిస్ పర్టికులర్ జడ్జ్మెంట్. ఇంతకు ముందు in 1967 there was another case called Golaknath's case. Even before that also there were number of cases like Shankari Prasad case. (1951). So Golaknath's case 1967. So this is the evolution of the concept of basic structure. In this particular case, Shankari Prasad case, this is related to the right to property. On one hand, right to property was given as a fundamental right in the original constitution. At the same time, in order to give effect to directive principles, certain fundamental rights, the right to property was compromised. Therefore, the question arises whether the parliament can amend fundamental rights like right to property. Can they amend fundamental rights? The question has come up. In this particular case, Shankari Prasad case, the Supreme Court gave the judgment that the parliament can amend anything in the constitution. The parliament has the supreme power. It can amend anything in the constitution, including the fundamental rights. Even it can amend the fundamental rights also. But in the Golaknath's case, the Supreme Court entirely reversed its original judgment and said, in this particular case, the parliament cannot amend fundamental rights. They cannot amend fundamental rights. The parliament under no circumstances can amend the fundamental rights because the fundamental rights are so sacrosanct, they are immutable, they are transcendental and immutable in nature. Though the fundamental rights are so sacrosanct, they are transcendental and immutable in nature, they cannot be touched. Under no circumstances the fundamental rights can be amended because they come under they are so sacrosanct, they are sacred, so they cannot be touched. You can amend other parts if you want, but the parliament cannot amend fundamental rights. That was the judgment given in the Golaknath's case. But we know this famous Keshavananda Bharati's case, in which the Supreme Court again reversed its judgment, and it stated that Supreme Court stated that it came up with the concept called basic structure. Here in Keshavananda Bharati case, the Supreme Court clearly stated that the Parliament, it has supported the earlier stand of Shankari Prasad. The Parliament can amend anything in the Constitution. The Parliament can literally amend anything in the Constitution, including the fundamental rights, but subjected to one condition. They have kept a condition. What is that? Subjected to basic structure or basic features, which means without disturbing or without violating the basic features or basic structure of the Constitution, the Parliament can amend anything in the Constitution, including fundamental rights. Now, what is the stand? Today's stand is, now we are following the judgment of the Keshavananda Bharati case, which is famous because they have come up with the beautiful doctrine called basic structure or basic features. This basic structure or basic features doctrine says, in the Keshavananda Bharati judgment, it says that the Parliament can literally amend anything in the Constitution, even the fundamental rights, but without disturbing the basic structure, without violating the basic features of the Constitution. That's it. Thank you.